She tried to bite the head of my penis off, because she thought I was cheating. What is your story with an insane or crazy ex-girlfriend? When I was a teenager, I had a girlfriend, and for her birthday I decided to throw her a huge sweet 16th as a surprise. For about a week I was talking to her sister and her mom almost constantly, trying to get everything organized. One night I am at home sleeping and she snuck in and tried to bite the head of my penis off because she thought I was cheating on her with her mom and sister. I now have scars of her teeth just under the head of my penis. Dated a girl 20 years ago who used to complain all the time that she didn't have any friends and that she was lonely. We both just moved to new cities for university. Also, being an introvert, I knew how hard it could be to make new friends, so I offered to help her out. I kept trying to bring her out with various groups of people I knew, to different events, dinners, and get-togethers. But she'd just sit in the corner and pout, never speaking to anyone outside of one-word answers. Then afterwards she'd just complain about everyone and how boring they were. Not surprisingly, we didn't last long. I broke up with her and it seemed like it went amicably. The real weird stuff started after we broke up though. After about a month she wanted to get back together, but I refused. So she started leaving gifts for me at my house, giving them to my roommates, as I made it a goal to spend as much time on campus as possible to avoid having her come over. These gifts were things like packages of uncooked bacon, because we'd cooked bacon together one morning; a dozen tiny cactuses in a paper shopping bag, because I'd casually mentioned one time that I thought a cactus I saw in a shop window looked cool; 6 cans of my shaving cream; 4 pairs of the brand of boxer briefs I wore; a giant movie poster for the movie we watched the first time we had sex on her couch, Deep Blue Sea; a cheese grater, no clue on that one. There were others, but I forget what they were after all these years. These strange gifts kept getting dropped off for weeks, complete with little handwritten notes about how this specific random thing reminded her of me, or some insignificant event in our 3-month relationship, and how we should get back together. The last gift was a betta fish, in a small clear bag. I finally went to her place the following Sunday, while her folks were having a barbecue, didn't know that beforehand, and told her to stop, that this was extremely weird and we'd never get back together. She had a fit and started throwing plastic utensils at me as I walked off, while her mother desperately tried, and failed, to stop her from making a scene. Gave the betta fish to my new girlfriend. 6 months into a relationship, my girlfriend and I decided to rent an apartment and move in together. After a couple months of living with each other, she decided she wasn't happy and wanted to break up with me and move out. After a day of discussing everything, we came up with a plan for her to move out a few days later while I was at work. The breakup went really smooth, no fighting, no pettiness, the most adult ending to a relationship I'd ever been through. Move-out day came. I went to work while she moved her stuff. She sent me texts apologizing for things not working out, wanting to stay friends, etc. I concurred. I came home after work. Her things were gone, and she even cleaned the apartment before she left. I had a few drinks that night, got a little drunk, climbed into bed and immediately felt something sharp on my legs. She had taken light bulbs and shattered them under the bed comforter. 60 stitches between both legs. I texted her from the ER asking why she would do that. She said she was mad I didn't put up more of a fight for our relationship and her. Keep in mind she was the one that wanted to end things. I used those texts to press charges. She tried to Facebook me about a year later. I did not respond. Not me, my brother. Hooked up with a girl overseas. Kept occasional contact online. She tells him she's visiting our country, and they should catch up. He agrees. Well, turns out she wasn't visiting, but actually moved to that country for him. He ends up spending a bit of time with her, maybe a month kinda dating, then he realizes what's going on. Eventually they break up in a fairly large fight. She leaves a note on his door a few days later that she's pregnant. Keeps at it for months with threats. Starts a mommy blog. Starts posting photos of the ultrasound, with updates on how big the baby is. She's a curvy girl, so even posted a photo of her belly. Starts a new Facebook profile, along with 5 to 6 other fake profiles. Comments between them all on an almost daily basis. All about her difficult pregnancy. Things she is struggling with, etc. Meanwhile my brother starts dating someone else. Moving on with life. Crazy girl continues with the charade. Starts posting my brother's face and details on weird websites like deadbeat dads and cheaters. A few years ago now, I forget specifics. Eventually she moves back to her home country and has the baby. With help from her new man, one of the fake profiles. but only posts weirdly cropped photos, not showing the face. Like a hand here, a set of feet there. Eventually we find the source of the photos that she cropped. It's a friend of her real Facebook profile who has a kid. Case busted. This whole ordeal lasted around 12 to 15 months before she eventually disappeared. I dated her when I was 15 and she was 19. She convinced me to move out with her and work while I tried to finish school. I was doing morning classes and working afternoons and evenings. She struggled to find work a bit, then got a job and started working 40 hours a week. Would get lunches ready for work, come home and talk about training and her long day and tell stories about her co-workers. Susan's son got in trouble at school, Gary has to be out for heart surgery, etc. This job lasted about 3 or 4 months, and one day on my commute between school and work I saw her on the opposite end of town from the workplace. I brought it up later and started asking more questions. Eventually it all came out that she had been lying about everything. She hadn't ever had a job, not even an interview. She was lying to her folks about payroll issues, so her dad was funneling her money, which she passed off as a paycheck to me. She made up every coworker, every story, everything. And instead spent a lot of time wandering town, waiting until I left for the day and going back home to sit on her webcam with her shirt off, long before that was considered a career, so it wasn't monetized. Then after we broke up, I found out how awful and crazy she really was. She was my first real girlfriend. We dated on and off when I was 16 to 18. After our first time dating, she accused me of sexually abusing her and told all her friends. They ended up telling a bunch of people, so basically word got out that I was a sexual predator. I ended up going to therapy 4 times a week for about 7 months because of how much this messed me up. I dropped out of high school because of my embarrassment, heartbreak and fear. I ended up trying to make things work with her, like an idiot, after she reached out to me after 7 odd months of no contact. She apologized for everything, claimed she cleared things up with her friends, and admitted she did it out of anger and has missed me every day since we broke up. Me being an idiot and still emotionally weak, I believed her. Came to find out that she slept with at least 3 dudes while we were broken up. 2 of which were older than 21, she was only 16 at the time. Obviously things didn't work out. She was incredibly volatile, and ended up telling me she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. The reason I put that in quotations is because she claims her mom pulled her out of therapy after her diagnoses, so I'm not sure if she was being truthful. She expected me to drop my entire life, quit my job, and move with her to Huntington Beach while she attended college. With absolutely no plan and no money saved. She wanted me to move in with her once she graduated high school. When I told her no, this was the start of our problems again. We fought a lot, and eventually I ended things with her after she lashed out at me for trying to help her after she left home. After I broke up with her, she threatened to commit suicide. I advised her to seek therapy again, but stood strong in breaking up with her. The next day she texted me and told me she was fine, and was looking for a therapist to see. I was happy about that, but refused to get back together with her. Once again, I made the stupid decision of promising her I would get back together with her if she persisted with therapy and I saw an improvement. We stayed in contact for a few weeks, she told me she wanted to have a child with me someday, all sorts of stuff like that. I found out a few weeks later she was seeing someone else, wasn't actually pursuing therapy, and just wasting my time. I cut off contact with her, and haven't talked to her in 2 years. Despite everything that happened, I still wish the best for her and hope she's happy. I don't want her involved in my life, and neither of us have attempted any contact. I'm now 20, and haven't been able to date anyone seriously since because of the damage she caused. I'm well aware I shouldn't have ever tried to make things work with her, she had serious issues and I was a pushover. Met her at work. She got my number from someone else and started texting me. Long story short, we hooked up and moved in together. She was going to school a couple days a week, an hour and a half drive away. She would go overnight and say she was staying at her parents'. I eventually came to find out that she was married, and when she would go for class she was staying at her husband's place. He had no idea she was living with me. It got really crazy for a while. She promised me she was divorcing him and that she would no longer stay with him. She pretended to be going through with the divorce but never really was. It didn't last. My very first real girlfriend was crazy, but I honestly didn't know better because she was a lot of firsts for me. There were a handful of red flags, but as a dumb 16-year-old, I ignored them. The one that stuck out to me the most was when we were having sex. She told me, "Rape me," and I thought she was kidding. I even stopped, laughed and said, "What? Nope," she was pretty serious. Couldn't really think straight after that one. Another time, she blamed alcohol for cheating on me. Then later on added that I wasn't paying enough attention to her. I initially forgave her, but it ate at me so badly that not too long after I had to split up with her, and holy hell, that was a process in itself that took longer than passing a bill through Congress. After we split up, she would sabotage any girl I talked to, including intentionally ruining 2 short-lived relationships that happened months after we split up. She would befriend them on social media, get to talking to them and act like they were friends, and then eventually brainwash them into thinking I was this terrible person. Rinse and repeat process. She had some daddy issues, and I found out later on that she went on a bit of a spree, which included having a threesome with 2 other girls and then getting tag-teamed by 2 guys. She was a terrible person overall, pretty manipulating. I'm so glad I learned early on what not to have in a relationship. She was like a module of mistakes. Honestly, most of my girlfriends have been great and we almost always parted amicably. I did, however, once very briefly date a girl in another city about an hour away. I had to go outside my apartment to get cell service, because it was some sort of black hole, and I was just pacing back and forth on the sidewalk as we chatted. It was the middle of a nice sunny day, so whatever. A girl passes me on the street and asks, "Excuse me, is this 15th Street?" And I quickly respond, "No, you've got to go 2 streets up." She thanks me and I go back to the conversation. The whole thing took maybe 5 seconds. The girl I'm seeing heard the whole thing over the phone, normal, since I'm not being sneaky about my helping people with directions, and asks, "Who was that?" "I don't know, some girl who didn't know what street she was on." "Yay, you probably slept with her." And it wasn't a joke. It was an incredibly nasty tone, like she'd just caught me flirting with a former friend with benefits or something. That moment honestly ended things. I could see she would be super jealous and crazy if I couldn't even give a passerby directions. So we chatted a bit more and then I broke things off shortly after. I did, however, once live with a girl roommate who stabbed a knife into my table because she thought I didn't wash a dish. There was a lot of crazy going on during my last relationship. About 98% of it is just sad or scary, so I'll instead talk about the most ludicrous aspect. She actively considered crushes on fictional characters to be cheating. It started innocently enough. She told me to stop making thirsty comments about a famous band member I had a passing crush on. That's a real person, so I understood the discomfort even if it was a tad unrealistic. Cut to a few months later and she pitched a huge fit that devolved into a huge fight because I'd mentioned how cute I thought a video game character was in passing. She thought I was preparing to leave her for said video game character. It was during that fight that I started to realize that I was fighting a losing battle in that relationship. That wasn't even the craziest thing she did, but it is certainly the most ridiculous in retrospect. Never made it to girlfriend stage, but went out with a woman and unlike the second date, she started asking me very presumptive questions like, "Do you think your parents will like me? Where do you think we'll live? Would you still like me if I gained weight?" Then if I paused too long to answer a question, she'd start crying crocodile tears until I said something else that immediately perked her up. Afterwards, when I tried to subtly mention that I didn't think we were right for each other, she'd repeatedly call and text me until I just had to block her. Scared the hell out of me. I caught my ex cheating on multiple occasions. One where I logged into her Facebook account one night, and saw that she was chatting with and sending nudes to a different guy. I decided to not say a thing and logged out of the account. I thought about what just happened for a few minutes, then decided to break up with her. Well, that didn't work out. Unfortunately. She denied that it wasn't her and gave excuses saying that it was her aunt. I tried to break up with her, but she decided to threaten to kill herself if I did. So I was forced to say that I am just joking and apologized and was forced to stay with her. It was a painful and traumatic thing for me. Being in a relationship with her was full of death threats and constant lies and manipulation. Trauma is when you try to break up with the person who you are in love with, seeing that they cheated, trying to break up with them, but end up having a forced video chat with her saying that she'll kill herself, also with a knife pointed to her neck saying that she'd make sure you get a funeral invitation. I stayed with her for like 2 years. Third draw before the last was when I broke up with her and she revealed that she was seeing a different guy that was her ex. They ended up having intercourse within a week or two and, that's right, she got pregnant and the ex didn't want anything to do with her and the child. I dated a girl who believed she was spiritually a dragon. I'm not talking about like, oh my god. Dragons are totally my spirit animal. It was more like, I am the reincarnation of a draconic Egyptian priestess. This was my first introduction into otherkins and indigo children. She was also an empathic vampire and other stuff. But here's the thing, it didn't bother me. She didn't really bring it up much and she was hella cute. We dated for years, but as time went on we found ourselves less compatible. But one of the tipping points was involving her dragon heritage. Sure, I don't care if you tell me. But what do you expect me to do when you tell other people? She told my close friends, who didn't take it seriously at all. I was embarrassed and she was pissed. She was also pissed because she wanted me to defend her. She brought up it's either me or them. Months later she broke up with me, but it would have happened regardless. I more than likely didn't handle it well. Actually, I didn't handle it well. However, in my defense, I had no idea how to handle that situation. It's not like she was practicing another religion. It was just BS. Please don't judge me, I just don't believe in it, and when you have people laughing at you en masse, I couldn't stand tall and proclaim in defense of something I just didn't believe in. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS, with another episode on relationship advice. Hit the subscribe button and activate that notification bell, else your crazy ex will sneak into your room and bite off your knowledge. Don't forget to share your own crazy ex stories in the comments below.